Hello there, welcome back. Today I'm talking about the career of Robert Zemeckis. I'm doing this because I was doing films about like emotional films. Well, I was doing videos about emotional films. I was doing videos about directors I really liked. I was doing a variety of different things, of themes of like trying to cover like important films for me, important periods of my life about how films affected me. But I thought there's another approach to it would be to cover certain directors who I may not cover a lot of their films like as individual titles because maybe there's not enough to talk about, but there's still a lot of interesting things to talk about with them. It's just that maybe they won't support a whole video about about one particular film. Like they can be entertainers with interesting things going on below the surface, but they might not have the weight for a full series of videos. I mean, I did a video with David Fincher a few weeks ago, and that was kind of gave me the idea this might be a good way to get directors like Fincher or Robert Zemeckis, who are interesting directors but who have had up and down careers and whose careers just films are hard to talk about in detail because a lot of the joy of them is in the stylization rather than the actual thematic contexts of what's going on. So, Robert Zemeckis this time. The big thing I would say about him is there's a few of his later films I haven't seen. Like I've not seen Flight, which I've got but haven't watched it. And it's like, and I haven't seen Allied or the new one, Welcome to Marvin. The problem with these ones is they just look terrible. The reviews haven't been good for most of them. Flight get decent reviews, but it looked like you'd seen the whole movie in the trailer. And it's an aspect of Zemeckis I'll talk about that I haven't seen What Lies Beneath either. There's some kind of films he makes that I really like, there's other ones I'm not very keen on, and I just think are pretty weak. So I could have been more thorough about it, but I just didn't really want to watch these films. I thought it was better to look at the really interesting ones he'd done and the interesting parts of his career rather than trying to focus on certain films that I have no real interest in. So there you go. So I thought about upfront about certain films of his that go towards more realism I'm not so keen on, because I don't think he does realism. I don't think that's what he's good at. I don't think that's what interests him. And there's a few examples that we went towards what could be called more realistic base of films that weren't very good. Okay, well, we'll start with his early films. Basically Zemeckis from the late 70s to the early 90s was having a great career. He really was knocking them out the park for quality wise. There isn't a bad film really until the early 90s, really, that I can actually claim as a bad film. Every one of them I would defend. So you have I Want to Hold Your Hand, you have Used Cars, you have Romance in the Stone, you have the Back to the Future films, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Death Becomes Her. This is a really good run of films. I mean, Death Becomes Her is probably the weakest one. That was the start of his wavering towards like silliness. There's still a lot of good stuff in there, and it's still dark humour, and it's you know, I'll still defend it. It's very enjoyable despite it's got some plot holes and it's got some weaker moments, but it's still fun. But it's a great run. I mean, it really was having a great run. I mean, I Want to Hold Your Hand about these girls who are trying to who are obsessed with the Beatles during the Beatles' first launch in America, and you're following different girls and the guys they're dealing with. So you have one who's a photographer trying to get a great photograph to further career. You have one who hates the Beatles because they're not pure, like Janis Joplin or Bob Dylan, you know. So basically a poser. You have one who's trying to get married and she's trying to move on from pop iconography and she's trying to grow up too fast. And then there's one who's obsessed with the Beatles. She's just like nuts about them, like completely out of control, obsessive. So you have four types of girls who are trying to, they're all about 17, 18, maybe higher up, I don't know, but some of them act older and some of them act younger. It just depends. Plus that they've cast actors who are a bit older, so you can't quite tell what age they're meant to be, but they're meant to be like they still go to dances, so some of them have jobs, maybe some of them have left school, but they're all kind of struggling to move on from high school and move on with their lives. So late teens, early 20s probably at the max. They play by actors and actresses who are older than that. So the film covers them going through basically 2 days from when the Beatles land to when they have the big show on one of the big American TV shows that will launch them into even bigger fandom. And what's good about the film is it's obviously a fan of the Beatles, but also doesn't mind making fun of them and having some fun at their expense and mocking them and showing them to be eager for publicity. You never see them, they're always just shadows in the background. You hear voices with them, but you never actually see them directly unless they're on stage from old footage. So it's almost like they're gods, and these people try to get towards these gods who think will somehow improve their lives. And they do improve their lives. That's the act of them trying to focus themselves on this one time, get a photo of the Beatles or get close to them. And it helps all these girls find a meaning for their lives as they go forward. Like the Nancy Allen character is meant to get married, realises she's trying too hard to grow up and she's not ready to get married. The Wendy Jo Spencer character, who's the obsessive, she realises she's still obsessive at the end of it, but she meets a guy played by Eddie Deason who's just as obsessive, and they can interact, and maybe that'll help them. Maybe they'll rub off each other in a good way. The girl who's trying to get a photograph goes so far to get the photograph that she's almost demeaning herself to get this career break. And it's just her trying to learn to have some balance, and it's not everything's about career, it's about people you know and how treat them well. And the kind of poser who's against the Beatles learns that they're not all bad, they're fine, it's just stop trying so hard. So it's just about people wanting to grow up with the background of the Beatles. It's a wonderful film, it's really well done, it's one of Zemeckis' best films actually, but it's underrated and underseen because he had bigger hits later. But this is a wonderful film. Next up is Used Cars. Used Cars is an amazing film. It's just so beautiful. It's such a great film and so cynical. I mean, it's one of the most cynical American releases. I mean, I would say the funny thing is Spielberg produced a lot of early Zemeckis films, pretty much during his best period. All of my Spielberg productions, and it was almost like Zemeckis was doing the film Spielberg couldn't do, which was the more cynical versions of someone who grew up in the 50s but who can look at everything with a view of there's corruption here, there's people are selling things and you're getting conned. It was just a very much more cynical view of the world, but Spielberg was supporting it, so it was really interesting because it was almost like a crazy take on the Spielberg 80s genre. The same way Spielberg supported Joe Dante, who also does weird twisted take on Americana. Like he supported he supported the strange directors who like to tweak the kind of films he was promoting as his films. It was like really weird because he was making these films that were very Americana, but he was also supporting the guys who were, you know, mocking it slightly. Which was saying a lot of good stuff about Spielberg. He actually had a sense of humour about himself. Despite all the kind of charge that go against him sometimes, he did support mockery of his own genre conceits. So, but Used Cars is like one of the best Zemeckis films. It's about a guy who is, compared to Kurt Russell, who's just this used car salesman. He will do anything to get a sale. He is so cynical. He will do any tactic. And basically there's two guys played by Jack Warden, twins. One of them runs the upmarket shop and he's a total scumbag. One's a nice guy who runs the downmarket used car sales lot, who's the boss of Kurt Russell. The older guy, one of the guys dies, the guy who runs the used car salesman lot, and they have to hide the fact he's dead for a certain amount of time so that his brother won't get the land and won't get the car lot basically. And it's all about all the machinations. The daughter of the guy who died arrives. They have to hide the fact that father's dead from her. It's so cynical but so funny, and because there's the Kurt Russell character is trying to save up money to become a member of Congress, to put down payment to get into Congress so he can be even more corrupt in the bigger stage. I mean, this film is no real respect for American institutions. It's really funny though. I won't say more about it, you have to see it, because a lot of weird, crazy stuff happens. It just goes on and on and on. So these early films were written by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. They were writing partnership until the end of the Back to the Future films. So Bob Gale wrote a lot of the films with him. And after he have they kind of split apart, the films were a bit different. But I should give credit, Bob Gale wrote this as well as Back to the Futures and I Want to Hold Your Hand. After those two films bombed, and after 1941, which Zemeckis and Bob Gale wrote for Spielberg, bombed, a film I really love. I want to cover that at some point. Zemeckis had to go out and make a commercial film to prove himself. So he made Romance in the Stone with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner. It was a big hit. It's a hard one to talk about because it's a pastiche of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it's a woman character in the lead rather than a man. And Michael Douglas is playing a kind of parody of Indiana Jones. But it's really well done. It knows what it is. It's a sense of humour about itself. It's a fun movie. You know, it takes all the tropes that they were doing in Indiana Jones films and sort of quietly sends them up without being cynical about it. So you can enjoy the Indiana Jones films, enjoy Romance in the Stone, and it's just fun. It's just a fun, light-hearted romp. It's, you know, it's one of those films you don't realise how hard it is to make until you see it done badly. Like there was stuff like High Road to China and things that were terrible versions of this. Then you see it done right, you think you see the craftsmanship involved. This is a wonderful film. Romance Stone is wonderful. It's just kind of forgotten now. It was a big hit in the 80s, but now it's kind of forgotten, which is strange because it's so well made. It's hard to find it in Blu-ray, and it's hard to see good copies of it. It's really weird how it's just been forgotten about. I think because there was other films that Zemeckis made that made kind of bigger hits, like Back to the Future trilogy. Back to the Future trilogy is great fun. My favourite is the second one. The first one is really well crafted. It's really well made. But I like the darker elements of the second one, where it's insane because the film goes to the future, takes a piss at the idea of the future, and does all these weird things about how kind of in love with toys we are. It doesn't get the look of the toys of this era right, but it feels kind of right for what we're like with the internet and like the 2-minute culture. Just this thing of it going fast and fast and faster, and tons of screens around and everything. It feels accurate, even though on the surface it's not accurate, but it does feel accurate. Then the film goes into its own past, and they have Michael J. Fox interacting with other versions of himself, so it's ripping into the whole idea of time travel. I just love Back to the Future 2. It's just so much fun. It's so fast and so twisted, and one simple mistake causes a havoc throughout the rest of the movie. And I mean, the first film is sweet, and it's got this idea of incest as one of the main jokes about it. And that's pretty dark for a kind of sweet time travel movie about a guy trying to get his parents back together. But the second one just goes to town with that darkness and just goes crazy with it. The third movie is a western, and it's the most lightweight of the films. There's not much below the surface, but it's still, like Romance in the Stone, it's still really enjoyable. You can just really enjoy the films. It's hard to talk about Back to the Future films because everyone's seen them. It's like, who hasn't seen them? So you don't really need to talk about the plot much. It's just like, I just give you my impressions of them because they're so well crafted though. They take the time travel idea seriously enough so that you feel like there's stakes to everything, but they don't take it seriously enough not to make jokes about it as well. And they can have lots of fun with reversals of characters. Like in the third one, it's like the first movie switched around, where in the first one Michael J. Fox was the teenager getting in trouble, and that's when he's trying to keep his Doc Brown from getting in trouble. There's romances involved and stuff. Everything gets twisted round, and characters go into variations of what another character was doing in another movie. And they have a lot of fun with all this, like people in different situations that echo situations from another movie. So it's a fun little look at movies and how a town changes over time and how characters, because you've got characters from the past that they have children, grandchildren and stuff, and then the same actor playing a character in different stages of the town's life. So that an actor can play like a character in the West in the third one, playing descendant of the character in the 50s and descendant in the 2015. So you're seeing how genealogy works and how people don't really change and how like certain families keep consistent through time, and it's really wonderful. It's a wonderful film. It's really worth exploring because it takes a lightweight idea of like time travel and fleshes it out. It doesn't go into depths about it, but it keeps it fun. It keeps it very enjoyable. And that's what Zemeckis is good at, is keeping things enjoyable and having themes below the surface that don't encroach on the film. They don't stop the film and say, hey, here's the theme. That's what he was so good at when he was younger. And when we're kind of lost as he get older. Who Framed Roger Rabbit's terrific as well. It's probably more cluttered than some of the early films because there's all these cartoons interacting with human beings and there's jokes going on everywhere. And the plot's simple enough though, and I think it's one of those films that works so well in rewatch, and there's lots of jokes and lots of gags that you don't see first time. And the plot's simple enough about a guy trying to solve the murder. Someone's been killed, Roger Rabbit's been framed for it. His pal Eddie the private eye Eddie, who hates tunes, has to help him prove he's innocent. And Christopher Lloyd plays the Judge Doom or whatever, the obvious villain, and it's just hilarious. It's a really funny film, but it's hard to explain though because it's like insane. If you try and explain it, it sounds insane because it's like the Back to the Future sequels. It enjoys looking at the craziness of the form because Zemeckis is really aware by using a lot of special effects of how like film is made up. It's all fake. We're focusing on this and giving an emotional reaction to this, so it feels real, but it also shows stuff on the other side of the frame that shows how fake it is, and it's like telling you you're being manipulated, but it's also genuine at the same time. It's like it's a really interesting mix that he had when he was at its peak, where he was showing you the reality and the fake of it at the same time. It's like both are kind of, you need the stories to get some emotional impact in your life, but he's also showing you it's also kind of fake at the same time, and we're making stuff up and we're entertaining you, but it's inconsequential, but it's also very important to you at the same time. And it's like that weird mix of fake and real in film that Zemeckis really gets. Another person who really gets it that era is Brian De Palma, who was more cynical about it and more punishing about it to the audience because he was aware of a lot more dark political aspects to it, like assassinations and how like weird crazy sexuality and how they explode into strangeness, and how like political corruption in the music industry and like Phantom Paradise. Zemeckis is more innocent about that. I mean, he makes jokes about Kurt Russell being so corrupt and used cars, but it doesn't mean much. He still believes in the system to correct all that stuff. He still is more believing in a happy ending than something De Palma is, or it seems to be, at least in the films. There's a lot more balance to them for a mainstream audience, but it's complicated. And that's what Zemeckis kind of lost as he became a big director. The complications of the fantasies he's giving you. Because it's sort of like Spielberg in the 90s. He went towards what we could be seen as more grown-up subjects, you know. But Spielberg adapted a bit more better. Even though a lot of his films, there are some simplifications that are annoying in certain films. Other films are a lot better. Zemeckis, I thought, was more cluttered when he tried to do more grown-up subject matters, which is why I find a lot of his certain later films like Flight and Ally I don't want to watch, because they look like they're meant to be grown-up films, but everything looks fake in them, and it's like, it just doesn't seem like there's much there. And I've seen other films he's made like that were just annoying because it feels like very much like there's a clutter to them. I mean, I say there was a clutter to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it didn't matter because the filmmaking was so confident that you got beyond that. But it was kind of the first sign that it could be a bit messy as a director, that would grow and grow in other films. But I still like a lot of his films, so it doesn't really matter so much. So in the 90s, Zemeckis made Death Becomes Her, which was a bit messy, but it was about these actresses who got eternal life and how it affects them. And it was called misogynistic with some critics, but it was actually just a parody of like greed, human greed, and how some people are susceptible. I mean, women and men are both susceptible to greed. This was a film with women being greedy. I mean, some of the used cars was with men being greedy. I mean, it's like there's only two genders. You're going to have to hit both of them for greed at some point. So I just didn't really sink in there was misogyny there. I thought it was just more of a parody of vanity and greed. You know, and actresses are like the obvious target for that. Forrest Gump is a mess though. Forrest Gump I can't stand. That was the first time I saw the next film and thought, oh my god, what the hell happened? Because he was trying to do a parody of a guy who's a simpleton going through the different eras and not getting anything, but being a important figure in these eras, but we're not getting it. Like he's almost like he's suggesting that there's a part of the American character that's a bit oblivious to the world. That would have been fine, but he tried to make around the moments of him saying this is fake, this is emotionally real, you need emotional reality as well, and the fake, you need both. And this one he seems to take the emotions of the fakery to, it's almost like he embraced the fakery as real, even though he knew better. So Forrest Gump was such a dumb character, you couldn't really take him real. But they tried to in this film, but they never gave the character enough depth to actually make any of that stuff, you know, have actual emotional impact. It had fake emotional impact. It had all these scenes that said you have to feel for this guy. But they didn't build the character up so you actually felt human emotion. It was just as the dumb guy, and it just felt like it was all very confused, and it was bizarrely conservative. I mean, Zemeckis has a conservative and a liberal element. There's bits of both. Like any director, there are elements that go every way, because human beings are complicated. They're not all one way politically. So there was elements of conservatism, even like Back to the Future and things, and used cars, but it was also set up. And this one, it did feel like he was trying to show America, but also send it up at the same time. But I don't think it worked. It just didn't work for me. I don't think it really worked. I think it worked much more as a sentimental look at how America was pure. That's what it was almost saying, rather than the parody it lost within the emotion, the bullshit emotions that Zemeckis used to be able to balance out. And now the emotional stuff came to the fore, but it was much more fake than before, and the parody was weaker. And it was just very unbalanced, and became this film that was just horrible to sit through. And I've tried, I mean, because I'm a fan of Zemeckis, I've tried to sit through this a few times. I've managed to sit through, but I've never enjoyed it. I've always been like, oh, I fucking hate this film. I just hate it. And it's just like one of the films I really can't stand. And it's from a director who I really like, and which makes it more annoying. He's never made a film since then I've hated as much as that film. But it really did hit me bad when I saw it, because it's a director I liked and he made something I really hated. And then he made a film I really loved, which is Contact. Contact is a genuinely beautiful film. It's not flawless though. I mean, Jodie Foster plays this woman who receives a signal. She's part of a group of people who are listening to UFO signals or signs of life in the universe. They get a signal and they get a set of instructions, and they figure out that there are designs for a spaceship, and it's all about the excitement of space travel, the fear of space travel, the fear of the universe, the excitement of the universe, what's out there and what's what do aliens want from us? What do we want from aliens? So I could go on about the plot, but it's really about how do you embrace humanity in the cosmos. And it's about contact, hence the title. It's not perfect. It's the ends part. I mean, Matthew McConaughey plays this preacher who believes in God. He's speaking for God, people who believe in God in this very scientific age. The idea is good. McConaughey I like as an actor, but he's given really bad dialogue. And he tries his best, but he's given he's not given the best material. So he didn't have much of a chance. Jodie Foster's terrific though, she really powers the movie. John Hurt as her mentor is terrific as well. There's lots of great scenes, like the excitement of the scientific discovery really comes through the film, and what can be out there and what's our place in the universe, all that comes through great. So even those flaws where they overplay the idea of religion versus science and they simplify it too much, doesn't matter so much because the actual humane part of the film and the excitement about the possibilities comes through. And unlike Forrest Gump, there actually is a character here you actually can get behind. And the science replaces the science and what was the fake satire before becomes science, so it becomes a genuine and place of interest for Zemeckis to put his special effects into, and he can be a believer in this and he can actually be genuine about it, so the whole movie feels, it doesn't feel slick and manipulative, it feels like a filmmaker excited about science. So that's why I love Contact. Contact's great. Despite its flaws, I still adore Contact. And it really makes up for Forrest Gump in my eyes. I can forgive Forrest Gump for Contact. After that, Zemeckis made some other films. He made Castaway, which I quite liked. Castaway's Tom Hanks stuck on an island, learning to survive. It's kind of like Forrest Gump in a way that it's a bit messy. But unlike Forrest Gump, there actually is a central character you can get behind. But it's kind of obvious in some of the drama. And this is where Zemeckis really started to fall down a lot, is he wasn't working with Bob Gale anymore. He's working with different writers. I think he was working with some bad writers, and writers who weren't always in his wavelength, or he reached towards stuff that he wasn't good at, and he didn't remember to say, that's a bit weak, that's obvious, you need to kind of pull it back somehow. I think that's been his flaw since then. I think he always feels to be more comfortable with stuff he's either emotionally attached to or something he can be snarky about. I think sometimes he's trying to impose some emotions to stuff that some part of his brain knows is bullshit. I think in Castaway that sometimes happened, where there was elements that was like, it's director, you must know better than this. This is sappy. Used when it came to Tom Hanks and Helen Hunt. Before they split apart and when they got back together, it felt like a bit sappy. The stuff in Him and the Island I really liked. Even when they went mad inside talking to the basketball and stuff, that felt what a person would do if they're going slowly crazy. So I've still got a lot of time for Castaway despite some of its flaws. I still really like it. It's still a enjoyable film. It's not top level, but it's still enjoyable. I still happily watch it every so often. Then Zemeckis went on to a much derided period of his directing career, which I kind of like, which is those motion capture movies. He made Polar Express, he made Beowulf, and he made Christmas Carol. I've covered quite a few of them in videos before. If you go back on my channel, I've already covered quite a few. Beowulf's my favourite. I love Beowulf's story, and even though some of the animations looked a bit suspect nowadays, the 3D was terrific. And again, the script had some problems where it overemphasised certain things you can imply, could have implied. But again, like Contact, it felt like he was really in the world and really enjoying himself in the world, so the flaws didn't really matter so much. He was with the story. So that allowed the characters and the camera movements and everything else to go with the story, so it felt like a genuine film. Polar Express was more messy, but it was one of those films that no one seems to like but have a soft spot for. Because it is sappy about the idea of a guy remembering some going to from the Polar Express to Christmas Land. Of course, you can't take it seriously, but it's never really meant to be. I think it kind of worked for what it was. It was just this weird little film. Plus, it was a bit darker than some of the other Christmassy stories, so I quite liked it. It kept some of the darkness in it. And the Christmas Carol, the one with Jim Carrey, was too short. It should have been a bit longer. And it's not a patch of George C. Scott version, but I still really enjoy it. I mean, these are films where I thought Zemeckis could get back to what he was doing in the 80s, really, where it was a bit more, he could allow some darkness to come through, and it was a bit more balance between darkness and light in his films. So even though there was a bit of fakery involved with this mocap thing, I still think there was a lot to the films that weren't appreciated, just because some technical limitations were focused on, rather than the craftsmanship involved in what he was trying to do. So yeah, I mean, they're flawed, they're not perfect, but they are interesting. I think there were genuine attempts to try and set up a filmmaking that no one else was doing. I mean, Avatar came along and got all the money for taking what was like 6 years of films that Zemeckis made, and made us one film that made all the money. But they built upon what Zemeckis was doing, and I think the Zemeckis films are more interesting than Avatar. Avatar's more technically accomplished, but I don't think there was interesting films. After that, Zemeckis went back to reality. Was after those kind of films were too expensive, they weren't making enough money. He made one film that was a massive bomb that I really liked, which was The Walk, which was about a guy trying to cross a line between two towers and do this walk on it. It was made in a film, Man in the Wire, as well, and a documentary film. The Zemeckis film was widescreen 3D. I really enjoyed it. It was this wonderful, strange film. It was done as a heist movie where they're trying to get into Twin Towers, set it up, and let the wire walk happen. So it's all these people who had a reason to believe in the walk, and who are up to no good, and they were quite happy to do for something that's kind of silly, but in reality, if the emotions of the characters is important to the person doing it, which is this French guy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, with a weird accent, but it somehow worked. The fakery of the accent, the fakery of Ben Kingsley's accent kind of worked for this film, because it was this strange, weird fantasy of what it would like to walk through the Twin Towers anyway. So all the fakery involved in this film, I think, really worked for it, because it was a film about cinema, and a film about the kind of heist nature of cinema. Instead of trying to get money, it's trying to get an accomplishment, which made it one of the more pure heist movies for me. It just was, they were after something that was worthwhile being after, rather than some money or some jewels. That's the problem with heist movies for me. I like heist movies, but whatever they're trying to get, I'm never interested in. I just like watching the mechanisms. So it was nice to actually have them trying to do something that I actually could get behind. So that was wonderful, but no one wanted to see it. And since then he's been floating around making like star vehicles like the Denzel Washington Flight and Brad Pitt for Allied, and they don't look that interesting. They just look sort of like Forrest Gumpy kind of thing, where he's taking stuff seriously that can't really be taken seriously. Like doing a World War II movie with Brad Pitt, who doesn't look like he belongs in World War II. They just don't look interesting. The last one he made, Welcome to Marvin, Steve, what do you call it? The guy from The Office. My brain's just gone. An actor I like, I can't remember his name. Apparently it is more loads of Zemeckis, but apparently it's a disaster. Like, it was really weird and no one liked it. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's just out, so I'm not going to pay full price for it, but I will see that, and I might do a video once I've seen it. But the other two, the Allied and Flight, just looked like, doesn't look like the Zemeckis film. It just looks like a film anyone could have made. So that's the Zemeckis career. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed talking about it because I like his films, and I've seen a lot of them, but it's not the kind of director you highlight much, so it's quite nice to talk about some of the films. But I've done some of the mocap films in the early period on my channel. Look on them if you dare. I enjoyed them when I made them, but I don't know how they stack up now. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon with another one.